Эй, всем привет. Продолжаем проходить столпы. Я вернулся. Наверное, сейчас буду весь день спидранить эту игру, чтобы сразу контента много высрать. Вот, а так, мы закончили в прошлой части вторую книгу. Сейчас мы уже приступаем к третьей, к финальней. Тут с 15 по 21 главу, значит, недолго будет, 6 глав всего. Вот. Ну, давайте продолжаем. Око бури.
The White Ship. She was one of the fastest vessels that was ever built. The man who should be king of the English now, the son of King Henry, was on board when she sailed off. And with the prince there were 140 knights and many nobles, all on their way from Normandy to England. They say the ship hit the rocks, and then a fire broke out. Even before the White Ship had departed, the prince and his men had begun to drink and get violent. Monks that were meant to bless the voyage were then forced to disembark. Some say the ship had been cursed. The king's son and many of his family were pulled down into the Black Sea that night.
Как повезло, блядь, кентам. 1142. Вот наша Альена с сыном.
You're forgetting one important detail. Not only these monks, but also Stephen of Blois, the king's nephew, left the ship before it embarked. They say he got ill.
That old rumor.
The same Stephen who calls himself the king of the English now.
What? That cannot be a coincidence.
Yes, it can be. Of course he's king now. He survived. He is the king's nephew.
What do you think, my lord?
I think Stephen is a clever man. Clever enough to have his whole family perish. But why you would want to rule that god-forsaken rock, I will never understand.
What makes you say that? I love my country.
Then why are you leaving?
Well, because I want to see something new.
I'll tell you what you're going to see. A proper country, where people know how to behave.
What about you? Why are you leaving?
Я разыскиваю одного человека. Мы же за Джеком все-таки полетели-то.
I'm looking for someone.
For who? I guess I should stay out of other people's business. Forgive me.
You English do talk a lot, don't you?
I just don't know how to feel about leaving my country for the first time. I mean, how should anyone feel?
Остается подождать и увидеть, что будет. Как
You'll
реальность.
see what happens.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just running away.
You should all get some rest. It will not be long now till we reach Cherbourg.
Thank the Lord. I can't wait to be back.
Вся та же заставка, что мы 1000 раз видели. Ну, в принципе, что менять, я тоже не думаю, что нафиг не надо было. Либо они могли поставить заставку, которая была в конце второй главы, где мы видели уже старого Филиппа, Джека, который вырос уже в мужчину. В общем, интересно. Ну, это их дело, на самом деле, тут не за чего их карать. Все равно выглядит очень прикольно. Не знаю, мне кажется, игры тут еще осталось часов 5, наверное, в сумме еще. Как раз, наверное, по часу на одну часть книги. Плюс-минус, не знаю. Столпы вот наши. Pillars, или как-то так звучит. Так, ну давайте. Мы сейчас, получается, будем продолжать за Альену. Книга 3. Око бури. Глава 15. Путешествие. Ну, такое неплохое путешествие. Шербур, Нормандия.
In the late summer of 1142, I had left my home country, England, for good. My old life lay in shambles, as did my former home of Kingsbridge. Having failed both my friends and family, I had set out to find my baby's father, the man I still loved with all my heart, Jack Jackson. And so early one morning in July, I finally arrived on the shores of Normandy. With nothing on me but a pouch of coin and a young, curious face yet unnamed, who was just as unfamiliar to this new world as was I.
Тут, получается, вообще вся стилистика должна поменяться. Белый корабль, это на котором затонул принц, или как его там. Один из самых быстрых кораблей того времени. Его капитаном был сын капитана Моры, того корабля, на котором Вильгельм Завоеватель вторгся в Англию в 1066 году. Как и его отец, для него он с радостью предложил свой корабль Генриху, возвращавшемуся из нормандского порта Барфлер, тому самому Генриху, что должен был стать королем Англии. Но, как и все несчастные, кто поднялся на борт этого корабля, Генрих не пережил путешествия. Во тьме ночи корабль напоролся на камни, и на борту начался пожар. Корабль погрузился в морскую пучину вместе с большей частью королевской семьи. Стефан Блатский также должен был быть на борту, но, как говорят, внезапное недомогание побудило его вместе с несколькими монахами сойти с корабля перед отплытием. Но это мы уже слышали. Так, что мы имеем? Шербур. Я слышал, что за этот замок было много сражений. Корабль туда не пристал бы. Корабль. Утром я села на первый же корабль. Я хотела уплыть как можно быстрее. А, то есть день всего прошел. Так, у нас есть кинжал. Я не дам малышу имя, пока не найдут Джека. И любовные элегии книжка. Ну, понятно. У нас ничего нету. Найду ли я когда-нибудь Джека? Каменщик. Я узнаю эти инструменты. Он каменщик вроде Джека.
You're still here?
Oh, it's you. I'm just trying to get my feet used to good solid ground again. The last bit of our voyage wasn't exactly my pint of ale.
Ты каменщик, да?
That hammer you're carrying, do you happen to be a mason?
Actually, I am. You have a keen eye, mistress.
I guess I just know a mason when I see one.
To be honest, I haven't been one long. Just finished my apprenticeship in Salisbury. Before that, I used to shear sheep with my parents, but I guess that wasn't really for me. Father still hates me for leaving, though.
Где каменщик может найти работу в этих краях?
What will you do to find work here as a mason?
Don't know. That's for me to find out. All I heard was that the wages are better over here.
So you'll just travel from town to town and look for employment?
Right. And I'll start in Lassay. A fellow mason told me about the abbey there. He said these Normans build their churches quite differently than we do back home. I need to see that with my own eyes. Maybe learn a thing or two.
Может, Джек отправился в аббатство в Лессе? Много ли каменщиков отправилось в Лессе? Хотя по-английски как-то
Do
по-другому
many
звучит.
masons go to Lassay?
Лессей.
Ah,
Как
dunno.
звучит?
It's really just a tiny town. The mason who told me just happened to do some repairs there once. It's likely he told others as well.
Я тоже оставила прежнюю жизнь за спиной.
I left my old life as well.
Scary, isn't it? To start off fresh and all that.
Well, you definitely sound more excited than scared.
Oh, I am excited. Wouldn't anyone be?
I don't know. Maybe.
Я ищу одного человека.
I'm looking for someone. A red-haired mason called Jack Jackson. He came to France about a year ago or so.
A fellow mason, great. Unfortunately, I wouldn't know a thing. After all, I just arrived here with you.
I know,
Ну да.
but should you meet someone like that on your journey, tell him Aliena of Shiring is looking for him.
All right. Jack Jackson. I'll keep an eye out for
Наверное, мы
you.
еще с ним встретимся.
Thank you.
Уйти.
Have a safe journey.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Пошли. Не Джек. Ну, блин, явно, да. На мгновение я подумала, но нет, это не он. Давайте поговорим с ним.
Good day. I am looking for someone. A traveler who came through here last summer.
Ну, блядь.
Hush now. I need to talk to this man.
Looks young.
He was born at the beginning of summer.
What's his name?
I haven't given him one yet.
You should. He needs to know who he is. Makes growing up a lot easier.
Дай яблоко пожрать.
You said you're looking for someone.
А я разыскиваю отца этого малыша. Бля, звучит
I'm
очень...
looking for the boy's father.
Well, from the look of your baby, I reckon his father has red hair like me, right? Well, I don't know every redhead around these parts. There are quite a few of us. Most of my family here in Cherbourg is ginger.
Oh, his name is Jack Jackson, and he is a mason.
No, sorry, I haven't seen him. And I come here every day. Maybe May saw him. She helps the sailors get their cargo to the nearby towns. Carries travelers, too.
I'll ask her. Well, thank you.
Че, мы говорить больше с ним не можем?
Talk to May, the coach.
Ага, понятно. Прилавок. Они договариваются о цене за право проезда. За право торговать с англичанами приходится платить. Прилавок. Здесь торгуют рыбой, а заодно и любимым товаром, каким только могут. Любым товаром, каким только могут. Так, что у нас еще дальше? Возница. Кажется, это ее телега. Должно быть, она знает все дороги Франции.
Hey you. That's quite a bundle you got there. Where are you headed?
Ты не видела рыжеволосого каменщика?
Have you seen a red-haired mason? You must have landed here sometime late last summer.
Another ginger in Normandy? I wouldn't have noticed, even if he was carrying a hammer instead of a fishing rod. Maybe you should ask someone in Barfleur. That's where all the travellers come through, the pilgrims and kings. Their lot rarely lands in Cherbourg, with the fortress passing back and forth between Stephen of Blois and Geoffrey of Anjou. Why you even came to Cherbourg in the first place baffles me.
It was the earliest ship I could get.
You must be in some hurry, madam.
Let's just say I needed to get away before I changed my mind.
Fine with me. Who am I to judge?
В Барфлере, может быть, туда Джека видел? Может быть. А какие есть еще пути?
What other routes are there besides going through Barfleur?
Oh, I don't know, really. You need to ask the locals about that. But Barfleur sounds like a good place to start. Shake my hand and I'll take you there.
Ты знаешь, как добраться до Лессей?
Do you know the road to Lessay?
Been there, seen it. But I hope you're not planning to go there on foot. Tell you what, you give me some coins and I'll treat you to me wagon. You can even change your destination once we're on the road. What'd you say?
Ну, ну, больше нечем, да, там? Я готов покинуть Шербур.
All right. Take me out of town.
All right. Where do you need to be?
Так, и что, нам реально сейчас дадут выбирать куда? Карты не могу управлять. Барфлер, Лессей. Ладно, отправиться в Барфлер, главный порт Франции, посетить аббатство Лессей. Главный порт, посетить аббатство. Ну, пойдемте в аббатство, как-то, мне кажется, более звучит. Там прям через море, что ли?
Tiny, but as it turned out, worth the trip. In the small abbey church of the Trinity, I met a monk who claimed to have talked to a man fitting Jack's description. He'd been fascinated by the abbey's rib vaulting and had asked the monks countless questions about the place's construction. The monk apologized that he couldn't tell me where Jack had traveled next, but I didn't mind. I lay down to sleep on the floor of the abbey guest house and, for the first time in almost a year, I felt relief. As I drifted into sleep, I hugged our baby tight and whispered into his tiny pink ear, "We're going to find your daddy."
Угу. Назад уже мы не вернемся. Мон-Сен-Мишель. Отправляемся в Мон-Сен-Мишель вместе с паломниками.
My father had once told me tales of the Mont Saint-Michel. Long ago, the Archangel Michael had urged Hubert of Avranches to build an abbey on a lonely rock on the ocean by burning a hole into his head. They say one can go and see his penetrated skull on display in the church of his hometown. It was a windy day when I arrived, and the place was crowded with pilgrims and jongleurs. I remembered Jack's fascination with these tellers of stories. I spoke to one who was just taking a break. As it happened, he had indeed met Jack, although not in Mont Saint-Michel, but on a road heading east from there. Apparently, Jack had been hopelessly tracking jongleur who might have known his father, Jack Cherbourg. But as he'd been gradually running out of money, he'd intended to look for work in Le Mans or Tours. That was about 6 months ago. I was catching up.
Le Mans Tour. Пойдем остановиться в Лимане. Типа полпути пройдем.
Going to Le Mans reminded me of all the trouble I'd left behind in England. 30 years ago, Le Mans had been conquered by the Plantagenet Geoffrey of Anjou, Maud's husband. And although they'd held it ever since, other noble families kept on pulling at the city, like Maud and Stephen tearing at England. There was no sign of Jack, but I got news of a new kind of cathedral being built in Saint-Denis, just north of Paris. It was possible that Jack had gone there to learn from the craftsmen. That was, if he hadn't travelled further south, looking for work in one of the many churches in Tours, the hometown of Saint-Martin.
Ну, походу. О. Прям в Париж уже почти туда. Ну, давай в Тур, тут поближе все-таки. Спустя 2 месяца пути. Тур, центральная Франция. Тут кенты строят нормально. Этот дядя ждет нашего разговора, я так понимаю, да? И птичка. Статуя Девы Марии. Мы с тобой оба знаем одно. Нелегко быть матерью. Да, чертеж церкви. Напоминает то, что строил Том у нас в Кинсбридже. Все это теперь так далеко. Стрельчатая арка. А мне казалось, что они обычно круглые. Никогда не видела ничего подобного. Стройплощадка. Прям как в Кинсбридже. Хотя церковная архитектура совсем другая. Как будто из другого мира. И важный господин. Уверенный в себе человек, но не сдержанный на слова. Полетели к нему.
Good day. Are you the master builder?
What is it?
I'm looking for a mason who may have passed through here. An Englishman with carroty hair. He calls himself Jack Jackson.
A redhead?
Yes. Did you see him? He might have asked for work here.
No, I'm not looking for new masons. We're just doing repairs.
Ah, but was he here?
No, never seen him. Now, stand back, woman. Something could fall on your baby's head.
А нет ли вокруг Тура других строек?
Are there other construction sites around Tours?
Well, yes. It's a big town.
And where would an outsider most likely find a job?
Dunno. Ask around.
Да, насчет вообще. Мне сказали, что он отправился сюда. Вы колебались, когда я упомянул рыжие волосы. Ну-ка.
You hesitated when I mentioned a redhead. Are you sure you haven't seen him?
Yes, I am sure.
Ладно. А мне сказали, что он отправлялся сюда.
I was told he wanted to come here.
Maybe he changed his mind.
Are you sure you haven't seen him?
I am. All right, he was here. Was working for me. But I had to throw him out after 2 or 3 days.
Why?
Because he was all want. Let me redesign the roof, let me make the nave lighter. All pretty ideas, but he never shut up long enough to do the work he was supposed to do. Shit, that man was almost as needy as my son when he was still a brat.
He does know a lot about his craft.
Well, I know masons like him. They grow up gifted, but without a mote of discipline in their guts. Can't work with someone like that.
Do you know where he went next?
No idea. Maybe to Limoges or Angoulême. Maybe even to La Rochelle. Seemed to have plans for every cathedral on God's green earth, but none for himself.
I understand. I'll leave you to it then.
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. Ну ладно, прикольно. Процветающий центр Эмиссель, Лимаш, Ангулем, еще один строящийся собор и крупный свободный портовый город. Да, хер его знает. Ну, Лимаш поближе.
We had just left Tours when I suddenly felt dizzy. I stopped and made rest, trying to catch my breath, then lost my breakfast in a ditch at the side of the road.
Заболели нафиг.
To my horror, our baby too had grown pale, his breath shallow like that of an old man. I tried not to panic, but the next inn was a long distance away and we couldn't stay on the road where it was wet and cold.
Вернуться обратно и отдохнуть, ну да.
Back in Tours, the fever got worse. I remember people carrying me into a room, laying me on a bed. I tried to feed my baby, but after that, everything turned into a blur. When I awoke, Jack was standing next to my bed. He scolded me for following him. You know you could go anywhere you want, he whispered. Why be stupid and follow me? I tried to answer, but he just opened the window and jumped out, heading toward ancient Greece, or maybe all the way to Arabia. And in my feverish mind, I followed him.
Все, у бабы шиза. Да, походу это шиза. Кинсбридж, Туры, Греция. Родина философии, колыбель цивилизации. Фестура. Да, ну давай, родину философии. Какая-то она помотанная.
The further I went, the angrier I got. For years I'd been fighting for my family. I'd committed myself to an oath to my father. I'd built up a business to sustain it and even married a man I despised so I could create a future for the people around me. I'd known nothing but my duty to the men in my life, while the man I was trying to find lived a life of casual irresponsibility. He traveled the world on a whim to learn about mathematics and philosophy, while I had to raise the child he'd fathered. When could I ever do anything just for myself? I asked the world as I went on.
Кинсбридж. Место великого падения.
I travelled in a circle all the way to the edge of the world and back, only to return to the place of our failure. With my eyes closed, I listened to the sound of ripping yarn and crumbling walls, and of coaches carrying good people away into a cloud of crimson dust.
Ну и просто нормально так пригрело. Бывает.
When the last moat had settled, I opened my eyes again and found myself in a dirty little room. An old maid was sitting next to my bed and smiled at me, then handed me my baby. Oh, dear God, he still looked so pale.
Ну, как ты хотел-то? Согреть его.
The more I tried to keep him warm, the colder he felt. Oh, please, God, let him live. Don't punish him for my own sins. I gently caressed his head until finally he put his mouth to my breast and drank more and more, becoming greedier with every swallow. We had both been spared. We rested one more day. Then I gathered my things and headed back to the cathedral to thank the Lord for his mercy.
По итогу мы в туре так и остались. А прямо и тут же еще. Надо возблагодарить Господа за то, что Он сохранил жизнь нашему ребенку. Все то же самое. До статуи Девы Марии. Личное место, чтобы помолиться.
I thank you, dear Lord.
All right,
I
steady
thank
now.
you for having spared my child. I thank you for...
Don't let go until it's done.
But why are you showing mercy on me? I failed everyone I cared about. I failed Jack. I failed my brother. And if I never return, I would also break the oath I had given Father. It's just that I feel like I've never had a life of my own. I've always fought for others. And this may be the very first time that I fight for something that I only want for myself. Maybe I should just go back and help rebuild Kingsbridge. Maybe Jack doesn't even care for me anymore.
Да не,
Amen.
быть не может.
Huh.
Медальон. Неужели это... Ну, кстати, похоже, да, что Джек делал.
I've seen one of those before.
It's amazing, isn't it? The man who did that really had it in him.
Что ему дано?
Had what in him?
The spirit of a true mason. It's a shame that the master let him go. In just 1 month, he did so many things.
А мне сказали, что он продержался всего 3 дня.
The master builder said he'd fired him after just 3 days.
Did he? Well, maybe that's how he remembers it. The two didn't really see eye to eye, you know? To tell you the truth, everyone thinks that he feared for his own job having someone like that around. The last thing Jack did was carve that corbel. It was the one thing the master let him do. Then when he was done, he was asked to leave.
Мастер сказал, что Джек не соблюдал дисциплину.
Your master said he had no discipline.
Let me tell you something. Jacques worked very hard on it. He was impatient and had a temper, but you could see that he tried to overcome it. Conquering that rock was very important to him.
Oh, I understand that so well. Do you happen to know where he went next?
He wanted to walk the pilgrim trail to Santiago de Compostela.
The Camino? The Way of St. James?
He said he might find someone there who knew his father.
Just one more thing. How was he when he left?
Never thought about that. Relieved, I guess. He seemed ready for something new.
Thank you so much for your help.
Think nothing of it. And good luck on your travels. May you find what you are looking for.
Где-то далеко. Угу.
Isn't it odd? Just when you stop looking, you come across the most curious of things. Like these 3 devices that one of my merchants brought back from Baghdad.
Oh no. Is it another one of your Banu Musa toys, Rashid?
They're not toys, Adriel. They're objects of scholarly ingenuity and reflection.
I will let my valued friend from the north do the honors.
О, блядь. Пришел Кент.
Jack, if you may.
Что это за статуя? Устройство Ослик. Одна из новых игрушек Рашида. Она из далекой восточной страны. Ее приводит в действие простая вода. Свод. Ребристые своды и стрельчатые арки. Эти южные строители настоящие гении. Рашид и его друзья. Еврей, мусульмане и христианин. Наблюдать за их перебранками всегда занятно. Сколько в них мудрости и юмора. Статуя Богородицы. Простое дерево с каменными глазами. Никаких механизмов или хитроумных устройств. Никто не знает, как она работает. Свеча. Фитили, пропитанные жиром и залитым воском. Должно быть, и это когда-то казалось гениальным изобретением. Как же легко утратить чувство благоговения. Маленький контейнер. Он как влитой сидит в этом устройстве, но его несложно удалить. Обычно он содержит воду. Устройство с певчей птицей. Еще одно новое устройство. Это работает на пару. Вот это сила мысли. И миска с водой. Вода, чтобы освежить горло в знойный день. Такую тяжесть не выйдет таскать с собой. Так, и все, да, вроде? Ну, что, свеча. Решить не должен значит, что я поджег собор. Ладно, Кент, ладно. Небольшой стол. Вот тенистое место, подальше от полуденного зноя, в окружении рукотворных чудес. Маленький контейнер. Пусто, блядь. Статуя Богородицы.
On second thought, why don't you save the lady for last? Otherwise, the other two devices might appear bland and boring in comparison.
I agree.
Воды, наверное, набрать. Это нормальная практика в этой игре. Видишь миску, набираешь что-то, наполнено водой. Теперь типа сюда опять поставить? Или как? Ну, ничего не изменилось. Ну, наверное, опять сюда же. Ну да.
Now, Jack will heat the water in the tank.
Под контейнер.
It's so beautiful it will make you cry. Just listen.
Я понял, как это работает. Бану Муса. Или как-то по-другому. Братья, известные под общим именем Бану Муса, сыновья Мусы. Трое ученых персидского происхождения, жившие в Багдаде в IX веке. Их самый известный труд «Книга изобретения». Большой иллюстрационный сборник, посвященный механическим приспособлениям и машинам. В основном эти механизмы создавались с развлекательной целью, но в них использовались новаторские для своего времени инженерные технологии. Братья писали также книги по астрономии, астрологии и геометрии. Их исследования в области геометрии оказали влияние как на исламских, так и на европейских математиков.
How does it work?
Maybe it's a miracle.
Right.
Go on, Jack. Tell them.
Объяснить.
There's a hidden wheel inside the box. It turns an axle that in return raises and drops a sequence of small cylinders inside. These cylinders work like fingers playing a flute.
But who is blowing into the flute?
Steam.
Steam?
Yes. When I opened the pipe, it gradually pushed itself into the tube.
The power of steam. For once, I must agree. This is brilliant.
Of course! It was created by a Muslim after all.
let's not get ahead of ourselves. What else have you got, Rashid?
Anyone care for some tea?
Thank you, my daughter. We will have some as soon as Jack has finished our presentation.
Mind if I watch?
Of course not.
Там, конечно, вряд ли английский не использовали, но...
Who is this man, Rashid?
Представь себе 3 устройства. Ну, типа, он статус сказал в последнюю очередь. Джек, друг моей семьи. Теперь надо с осликом. Опять забираем эту. Пустая. Ослик с водой работает. Такой, типа.
I could watch this man scoop up water all day.
What is that? A Greek who wrote a book called The Elements of
Устройство
Geometry.
ослик. Выливаем, пацаны.
The Egyptians translated it into Arabic, and now the Englishmen are turning it into Latin. Now, watch the head. Just any moment now. There. Did you see?
It threw up.
Rashid, this is disgusting. Oh, far from it. Would you kindly explain how it works, Jack?
Это чистая магия.
It's pure magic.
Is it?
I've heard that these northerners believe in all kinds of things.
That God has a son made of flesh and blood, for example.
Mocking one's prophets can go in both directions, Adriel.
I am very certain that my God can take your weak little jokes, Rashid.
So, how does it work? That small floating bowl has a hole at the bottom, gradually filling it with water. Once the bowl is full, it pulls on a string, making the ball drop from the mouth. The ball then hits a weight, pulling the bowl back up, thus resetting the entire mechanism.
If you timed it perfectly, you could make it drop a ball at every hour.
Turning it into a clock. How clever.
For me, it's still nothing more than a puking donkey.
Show us more, Rashid.
One could join those two and build a singing donkey clock. One song after every hour.
Это недурная идея.
That would be pretty clever.
I know, right? You could be the one to build it.
Oh, that would be unfair. It's your invention.
I would let you have it. Or we design it together.
Опа. Реально. У нас все, ну,
You
отец.
still haven't shown us that statuette yet. Of course. Jack, if you may.
Так, чё? Брать мы это забрать уже не можем. Аиша, она принесла чай, но, разумеется, это всего лишь предлог. Она слишком умна. Это повод прийти и послушать наш разговор. Ну-ка, мы с ней можем поговорить?
Don't let me distract you, Jack.
Понятно. Теперь можем статую забрать, да? Ошибись.
Oh, you will love this. Just watch.
Надо положить в прохладное место. Ну, вот это вот на небольшой стол. Типа солнце ее мы убрали.
And now?
Just be patient, but don't look away. It takes some time for her to...
To do what?
Is it crying? Isn't that amazing?
No, it's irritating. Rashid, what is going on?
Это тайна.
It's a mystery.
Rashid, please.
We all know that there is no such thing as a man-made miracle.
And this piece of wood is very clearly made by man.
I very much agree, my friends. But so far, none of us has an explanation.
All we know for certain is that her glassy eyes shed tears when you move her from warmth into cold.
Like a plant at sunrise? Like dew?
Ну так, это скорее так всего и
The
есть.
only difference is the surface. That's all.
Попросите ее продолжить.
I think you may be onto something.
Am I? Of course, I had no intention of disturbing your conversation. But if you can find out why there's dew gathering on a plant, you may understand why that woman is so weepy.
Такая плаксивая.
So, who wants a cup of tea?
I'll have some.
Your daughter is quite something, Rashid. A scholar in her own
Да
right.
типа, блядь, тут Джек вообще во все тяжкие ударился.
I'd rather she
Или он будет, не знаю, каким-то
It would make marrying her off so much easier.
многоженным человеком, блядь,
I'm certain
рыжим
that won't
человеком.
stay a problem for long.
Maybe the dew originates from invisible water in the air. Water that stays hidden when it's hot.
На пути святого Иакова через 3 месяца.
The pilgrim trails across France converged at Osterbat, in the foothills of the Pyrenees. There, the group of 20 or so pilgrims who had been travelling alongside me since I'd left Tours swelled to about 70. Some were prosperous citizens, some probably on the run from justice, a few drunks, and several monks and clergymen. Several languages were spoken, including Flemish, a German tongue, and a southern French language called Oc. Nevertheless, there was no lack of communication among them, and as we crossed the Pyrenees, they sang, played games, told stories, and in several cases had love affairs. While my baby and I kept mostly to ourselves.
Опять херачит Кент.
Ganz schön frech, die mit ihrem Kind.
Да-да, так и есть.
Hush now. Hmm?
Блей, чё не так палят? Не нравится им? Отправиться на прогулку, извиниться перед паломниками, напевать песенку, качать малыша.
Richtig dreist.
Извиниться перед паломниками сначала.
I'm sorry. He has to cry himself out before he'll fall asleep.
Он решил устать, чтобы
It will
хорошо
give you a strong voice one day, won't it? Do you have children?
Kann ein Mann nicht
Напевать
einfach mal seine
песенку.
Ruhe haben? Der Weg aus Babenberg war doch anstrengend genug.
Прикольная песенка. Качать малыша. Ну, они с нами разговаривать не хотят, ну и нахер их.
Ein Kind hat ja auch gar nichts verloren. Stimmt doch, oder?
Опять покачаем. Ебать, качаем его. Продолжить разговор с паломниками. Ну и
How
только
long have you
хуже.
been traveling to get here?
Не нас игнорить будут?
I met pilgrims from as far east as Franconia.
Понял, нас люто игнорит.
I am sorry.
Бля.
We'll go for a walk so you can get some rest.
Ну да. Немецкие пилигримы, я их не понимаю. Это что, немецкая речь? Костер. Здесь было заготовлено немного дров для всех паломников, которым случится пройти мимо. Тропинка к пути Святого Иакова. Нет, я уйду завтра через мост. Берег реки. Пойдем. С саращим кентом, блядь. Угу. Слепая женщина. Паунте Романико. Город получил привилегию на строительство моста. Всем паломникам приходится проходить через него. Благодаря этому торговля в городе процветает. Город получил... Ага. Река Арага. Большинство паломников останавливаются возле источника в городе, но я подумал, что у реки будет потише, а теперь весь шум здесь подняла одна я. Так, слепая женщина. Вот бедняжка. Может, я сумею хоть чем-нибудь помочь? Давай попробуем.
Dear Lord, what are you doing? You should get out of the water. It's freezing.
My ring! I lost my ring! Dear Lord, please show mercy.
Искать кольцо, искать кольцо, искать кольцо. Искать кольцо. Влажная почва.
Where are you? Where did you go?
Искать кольцо. Блин, а я не могу, мне там мешает немного это, иконка ребенка, блин. А, вот, что засветилось. Искать кольцо. Этот затих вроде. Ну все, и уходим. Я нашла его. Беспонтовое какое-то. Держи.
Where did you go?
I found it.
Yes! Oh, thank you! Thank you so much! You are a very kind woman. So very, very kind.
I'm glad I could help.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Ну как, тебе уже теплее?
Are you getting warmer?
I am, thank you.
Расскажи мне о своем кольце.
I can see this ring is very precious to you.
It was a gift from my stepmother. She thought I would stay forever, but I didn't.
Почему же ты покинула отчий дом?
Why did you leave?
Oh, I thought I didn't belong. She always said I was her daughter, but I was sure she was lying. I was so selfish and so stupid. Too stupid to see I really was happy.
Может быть, ты и впрямь была несчастна?
Maybe you really weren't happy.
I don't know. I was very young and thought I was unhappy because I didn't live close to the sea. But in the end, the sea did not feel the same about me. The cold there made me sick. It took away my sight.
Блядь, жестоко. Чтобы вот так уйти, нужно немало храбрости.
It was courageous of you to leave. You did what your heart told you to.
I was stupid. So stupid.
Ah, that's why you went on the pilgrimage.
Yes. So that St. James might see my devotion, and I will be united with my mother in heaven. I'm just not as kind as you. Not kind at all.
У нас немало общего.
Actually, we two have quite a few things in common. I too am trying to make amends with the one man I loved the most. I was told he went straight to Santiago.
You will know soon.
Not soon enough. It's still 4 weeks till I get there.
He'll be there, I'm sure of it.
Надеемся.
I hope so. I just feel that with every day that passes, I'm losing him a bit more. And that the only thing I can allow myself still to hope for is not love, but forgiveness.
I understand.
Hey, hush now. Not long now and our journey will be over, hmm?
Путь святого Иакова изучить. Ну, ладно. Или путь святого Иакова, маршрут христианского паломничества в кафедральный собор города Сантьяго ди Компостела, где по преданию покоятся останки апостола Иакова Старшего. Наряду с паломничествами в Иерусалиме и Рим, это одна из важнейших для христиан дорога. Только в таком пути паломник и мог освободиться от своих грехов. К XI-XII веку такие паломничества стали организационными, и вдоль пути стала возникать инфраструктура. А также был составлен первый в истории путеводитель, так называемый кодекс Каликтинус, кодекс Каликста, призванный поддержать будущих паломников и укрепить их в намерении совершать паломничество. Отличительным знаком пути святого Иакова, как и символом самого апостола Иакова, является ракушка. Эх, нифига. Двинуться дальше по пути, но тут нам больше и некуда.
The woman's name was Alba. She came from a small town somewhere in Catalonia. I quickly got used to her constantly feeling out for her stepmother's ring and the sad guilt that would always follow in her milky eyes. I wasn't sure if she appreciated my company, but I couldn't leave her on her own either. By the time we reached Los Arcos, she'd stopped talking, while I kept on dropping a kind word here and there to let her know I was still by her side.
Двинуться дальше по пути. Бургос.
Alba believed herself to be of weak mind and body, and yet she walked the Camino with a strong sense of purpose that willed her onward. It made me wonder about what I'd told her about my own journey. Did I hope for love? Or was I really traveling because I needed him to forgive me? But what was there to forgive? My decision to marry Alfred had been in the best interest of the people of Shiring. It was a sacrifice I had to make to stop the evil reign of William Hamley. These questions had haunted me for a long time now. But if I really was going to see Jack soon, it was time to make up my mind.
Леон. Ну, как-то вот в этой части книги очень много разговоров. Очень как-то очень долго. Ну, мне приятно, на самом деле приятно. Дальше по пути.
After Astorga, the trail got more difficult. Alba became slower and slower, and we had to rest more. She became quiet again. The strain on her old body grew, and she worried that she might not be able to reach the end. Still, we managed to push onward. The next morning, she refused to get up. Her breathing was disturbingly shallow, and she hardly noticed me touching her forehead. Everything hurts, she said, and urged me to continue without her.
Достанемся с ней.
Of course, I stayed with her. I brought her food and water and sat by her side. But day after day, her condition grew worse. She kept on urging me to go, to find Jack, saying the monks of Ponferrada would take care of her.
Оставаться рядом с ней, что уже до конца ей, походу, недолго осталось.
And most of the time she'd tried to push me away, as if she considered herself a nuisance that slowed me down and who didn't deserve company. It wasn't until a few moments before she died that, for the first time, she smiled at me, and I like to believe that she saw me smile back.
Грустно.
I still like to believe that here, in this unlikely place, dying next to a near stranger, she'd found a moment of serenity and happiness, but she'd not reached Santiago.
Ну да, она не дошла.
When I
по
left,
факту.
that thought still haunted me. To see that a journey could come to an end so suddenly. But what would be different if she had reached Santiago? Could she have been disappointed by what she found?
Сантьяго де Компостела. Надеюсь, нормально читаю. Хотя я и так замечаю за собой ошибки, но слишком будет ухо резать. Спустя месяц путешествия по пути Святого
After
Якова.
months of hard travel, the child and I finally reached Santiago de Compostela. In the evening, we attended Mass in the great cathedral, then started to roam the town looking for my dear Jack. It was almost dawn when finally a priest pointed me to an inn close by.
Что ж, ну давайте тогда на этом закончим. Сразу же начну записывать следующую серию. Надолго с вами не прощаюсь. Так, ставьте лайки, комменты, не комменты, подписка, отписка. Всем доброго, считай, дня. У меня время 4 дня сейчас. Вам же всем интересно. Всем хорошего дня и всем пока-пока.